If you didn't know who Travis Pastrana was, that's the kid you shoved in the locker. Like, hey, look at the dork, let's go beat him up.
Oh, this stuff works!
My name's Travis Pastrana, and I calculate risk for a living.
Goes down.
I don't believe that.
Pastrana flipping everything.
And the 199 tells you everything you need to know.
Oh, just gets punished by the motorcycle.
But it's time for Travis Pastrana, who admits he has the willingness and stupidity to try anything on a motorcycle.
The undefeated king of freestyle motocross and X Games gold medalist, Travis Pastrana.
First gold, first time. Travis Pastrana, he went down hard in the woods just a moment ago.
Travis Pastrana has never lost a freestyle motocross event.
Pastrana flipping out of the game.
Travis's night terrors.
Travis maintains control when he's awake. At night, the demons come to haunt.
If you wake up because some lunatic is running around the house in circles screaming, it's Travis.
He's been screaming and hollering to sleep ever since he was maybe 11 and 12 years old.
He's terrorized by his dreams.
Holy it's creepy. I don't know what the hell you got in that head of yours, TP, but...
Went to a psychologist. They actually said it was repressed fear.
He's not afraid of anything during the day. But it's just so interesting that when he closes his eyes, he is haunted on a regular basis.
I mean, there's times that I just run around screaming and I don't remember anything.
I'd let him run around the house, but he'd get himself hurt. He doesn't know where he's falling down steps and running into doors.
The first time I saw it, it freaked me out. I didn't sleep the rest of the night.
He's 6'1", on top of a bedpost. I don't think the ceiling was probably right there, and he's screaming at me, like pointing at nothing.
I swear I see it. I mean, there's kids burning up my fireplace. I get waken up by the screams. I mean, weird stuff.
And believe it or not, he's not awake. He's definitely asleep when he's doing these things.
And I'm awake, like, I know, because, like, I can hit myself in the face and it hurts.
Some people are schizo.
You know, it was like two different people, and grabbed a glass of water and went back to bed.
I'm kind of going along with the theory that I'm schizophrenic, though. That seems to be easier because...
You know, people keep trying to draw lines between why is this happening, why is that happening.
Whatever it is, it's a strong force that keeps him going as fast as he does.
Even Travis has to deal with fear.
It's just your turn. Suck it up.
Maybe it's just nightmares of Robert yelling at him all the time. I don't know.
There's definitely something heavy going on there psychologically.
He smiles all day. He runs to the devils all night. That's a pretty good deal.
He's supposed to be riding on the Supercross track, and he goes and tries to jump something that doesn't need to be jumped. And even if he did jump it, so what? Anaheim was 6 days later.
Biggest race of his life coming up. And Travis and Gary Bailey, in their infinite wisdom, had built the jump that was about maybe 7 feet high. And the projection was supposed to be about 200 feet over top of barbed wire fence up to the top of some cliff.
Freaking quit whipping out and hit it.
And I said, Travis, do not do that. You can do that whenever you want when the season's over. I said, right now, you belong to Suzuki. Do not do that jump. And every day, for 5 days, I was working with Travis. No, do not do that jump.
But when you hit the ramp, it's pretty mellow.
And one day I left him, I went around back, and Godfrey showed up that day, so I went around back, and they're doing their thing, and they're supposed to be behaving, and Godfrey pretty much knew that that was a hands-off jump, and Travis knew everything about that jump.
I'm just worried about handlebar.
And I went back and I ran the loader to build some alternate jump they could do. And some little kid on the 50 pulled up and says, Mr. Pastrana, he says, Travis is hurt. So he did the big jump, didn't he? I was livid, and I told him that. I said, Travis, if you want to do freestyle, fine. Quit the factory stuff. Just do freestyle. I said, but right now the factories own you. You can't do this kind of stuff. And I wasn't as mad at Travis as I was the fact that there was an awful lot of factory guys were really waiting on Travis to show up.
We were real disappointed to get the news because we're looking forward to winning some races in the '03 season.
I call it the $1 million jump because that's about how much money he lost on that jump.
As time went on, you learned that that's just the way things go with Travis.
And that was another huge setback. Actually, his knee's never been the same. He'll feel that jump the rest of his life every time he puts that leg down. But that's Travis.
There's two characteristics that he has. He has no fear, okay, which is what gives him the ability to keep on pushing the envelope. And I think he has congenital insensitivity to pain. Most of us would have pain with these situations. Travis seems to, shut that out of his body without drugs or medications. I don't think the kid takes more than, like a few Advil, after an operation. So, I mean, he's pretty resilient. I've taken care of him for wrist fractures, knee injuries. His knee's been reconstructed several times. He's blown out the ACL on one side twice, on the other side another time. He's taken chunks out of the joint. I've taken loose bodies out of his elbow. You name it, he sprained it or broken it or banged it up at one point. I've lost count of how many concussions Travis has had. He's way over what anybody would consider a safe limit under any sporting conditions. Look at Muhammad Ali. There are some real long-term concerns, and I hope and pray that Travis never has any of that stuff happen with him down the road.
I'm 20 years old, and they're teaching my mom how to put a suppository in me.
Matt Bigos was a guy that I really didn't know. And for me, we met that night, we went out, I made a huge mistake and drove way too fast.
I've known Travis all my life, and through all the things he's been through, he's hurt himself, and he's never really involved anyone else in his stunts or activities that he's done. And this time he hurt someone else, and it really was one of his low points of his life.
Paul knew Travis from racing, growing up together, about the same age. Head on over to Travis's house, and it's kind of late, probably maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock, I don't really remember. We weren't there real long, and he said, hey, let's go for a ride. So I hopped in the car, and I knew we weren't getting in the car to go 35 miles an hour the speed limit. I knew that wasn't happening.
Police officers estimated his speed at the impact of the tree of being 130 miles an hour.
Was kind of surprised at how fast we went. He's a lot better driver than I had realized.
Yeah, he told me as he was coming up to the jump, a deer stepped into his lane, so he jumped and landed a little crooked and landed into the oncoming traffic lane and tried to correct to get back into his lane. And by doing so, he ended up sliding from one side of the road over to the right and then back over to the left into the embankment over there.
Next thing you know, it was, rolling in the car and had lost control.
Hit some of the trees, ended up pretty high. We found skid marks and car parts up in the trees and hit that big lash tree pretty hard and landed upside down in the middle of the road. There was blood pouring out of the passenger side window, and I didn't even bother getting out of the truck. I didn't think there was a chance that either two of them were alive. But the fire crew came up to me and asked how many were in the car, and I was like, there's two, and they're like, we only found one. And by this point, Travis starts walking out of the field right here, blood squirting out of his head, hands are mangled, bleeding all over the place, doesn't know where he is or what happened.
Travis was out of the car and was telling me that it was going to be okay and he was going to get me out and get me help. And
he's screaming, I can't feel my body, I can't feel my body.
I remember taking my hands and hitting them on my legs and just couldn't feel anything anymore. It was like hitting the table. It was no different.
And I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I got my arteries severed in my head. I got blood just pouring out everywhere, and all I can think is, if I just paralyze this guy, I mean, I don't know if I can live with myself.
Yeah, we found the motor about 200 yards over there on fire.
Actually, when I got the phone call from Jim, I said, I'll call his mom, and I called his mom up, and I said, Travis is in the hospital, critical condition, what I understand, and the other kid's in another hospital. And she said, well, on your way to the hospital, pick me up. And I said, I'm not going to the hospital. I said, I'm going to work tomorrow morning. I said, I need sleep.
My dad and family has always supported me through everything. I mean, they didn't even come to the hospital. My dad, we went straight to see Matt, made sure he was alive and okay. And
they came to see me to check on how I was. Everybody had told me that, Robert was pretty upset with Travis.
I didn't say much to Travis. He knew I was disappointed with him. I came in the hospital maybe 36 hours later, and he looked at me, and I didn't say anything, and he said, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And it wasn't, how are you, son? I'm glad you're okay. It was none of that.
Yeah, my dad, not that he was holding a grudge, but he didn't talk to me for a week or two. He said, well, you dumb I hope you learned. If you ever do that again, I'm gonna kill you. And I believe that's a quote.
They told me to basically expect to never walk again. Me being in a chair was just no different than breaking my leg and having a cast on it. It was just a temporary thing to get me through until I got better.
That car crash was the worst day of my life. And more so because it affected somebody else's life.
Thousands of tons of ammunition here.
Don't hang out with Travis. This is what happens.